Today, what I'm going to try and do in 10 minutes is give you some kind of really useful information that you can take away and start generating leads. So the main thing we're going to be talking about here is leveraging referrals. So what do I mean by leveraging referrals? When we talk about leveraging referrals, it's about using positive client feedback and client testimonials to your advantage to win new business. So one of the key ways of doing this is via LinkedIn. So people can get started with this straight after this demonstration, I'm going to take you through the key areas around LinkedIn. So for those of you who don't use LinkedIn, we're just going to talk about why it's the platform to use. Obviously, there's over 700 million users on LinkedIn. More than 61 million of those are actually decision makers, and the amount of conversions and you get is actually 3 times on LinkedIn for when you look at it against other social platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Another major benefit of using LinkedIn is that you can bypass the gatekeeper. So essentially you can do some advanced searching and you can find the exact person from within that business who's going to make a buying decision. So that could be a finance director or an operations director. So the great thing about this as well is that you can actually use your clients, your existing clients, to your advantage and look at their connections, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail shortly. So just to give you a bit of an example and talk about the concept of leveraging referrals. So the great thing here is if you're, for instance, these are some quite large companies we're using examples, but Virgin Galactic. So if you have a service within Virgin Galactic as a telecoms or a tech company, then you may have SpaceX looking at Virgin Galactic system going, well, that looks great, you know, how do we look to use that? The other thing here is obviously using the good feedback, you can kind of position yourself as an expert in that field. So here's some examples I'm going to use for our business at Get Crisp. So we've had a 5-star review from Pragma. So what I've done then is looked at the 5-star Google review, made sure I'm connected with Will on LinkedIn. Once I'm connected with Will, I can then see how many connections he's got. So we can then click on those connections and actually have a look at other clients that he's connected with who may be interested in the same service. This could be due to industry. You know, we may want to look at other telecoms and technology companies that Will's connected with. This may be location based. So for you guys who deal with the SMB market, you know, you may want to look at other shops in the same area as one of your existing clients, for an example. Once you've kind of determined who that is that you want to connect with, find the finance director or the operations director, you can then send them a connection request with an email. This is when you can really use the benefit of your 5-star reviews, which I'm sure you've all got plenty of. So we can really leverage the referral here. So we'll start talking to the potential customer about the work that we've done for Will at Pragma. So we can start with saying, hi, I see you know Will and the team at Pragma. The other great thing with LinkedIn is you can attach images to those messages as well. They're a lot more visible, you know, a lot more appealing. So what works really well, and we found with other telecoms clients works really well, is actually taking a screenshot of that 5-star review. That could be from your website or from Google Reviews or Trustpilot, wherever that review's been left. We then add that review into the message and then put a bit of an action for the client at the bottom there as well. So ask them if they've got time to speak or a few minutes available. So that is one method. There's some other other methods that you can use, as well as InMail, which I'll talk about in a small bit of detail. You can also share video messages, which is obviously another great way of engaging with a new or potential client. This might be doing a 30-second kind of elevator pitch and talking specifically about that customer and how you can help them and their requirements. The other good thing with LinkedIn is, in certain circumstances, you can navigate to your privacy settings within LinkedIn, download all of your connections, and on some occasions, not all, there'll also be an email address included in that download, which is another really useful way of bypassing the gatekeeper and speaking directly to that finance or operations director who's going to make a buying decision. So, you know, find what works for you. There's not a strict structure to this. What we do find is, you know, give it a bit of time. So from initial contact, you want about a 5-week period. So that initial contact will be that InMail message that we looked at the beginning. So that's where you can really leverage the referral, send that review over to them. Then follow that up. This could be via a video message or a call. Whatever you find works best for you. Give the client or potential client some breathing space. You know, they may be on holiday or away and they don't want to come back to being bombarded with sales messages. So give them a week or so breathing space. Make sure you then follow that up. And then on the 5th week, it's kind of a last ditch attempt here. So what we've found works really well is either adding a bit of humour into the final message. So if you have their email address, you know, find what works for you, send a animated GIF, or another good thing that works is send a final InMail message. This could be you actually screenshotting their profile or their company's profile and just writing a little bit of blurb about, you know, why you think you can help them. So the other thing to talk about here is really don't be afraid to get your personality across. The theory we use, if you're happy to sit in a meeting with someone and you'd happily say that, then you're fine to share that on social. So yeah, you know, if you're happy to say anything in front of them, just make sure you share and get your personality across in those messages. You know, feel free to use a video message technique if you're confident enough to do so. If not, traditional calls and email is fine, whatever you feel comfortable with. But make sure you're professional. Obviously, the thing with LinkedIn is there's always going to be a paper trail for that. So just make sure you're professional at all times. So it's not just about LinkedIn. Although I've covered LinkedIn on this topic, I wanted to make sure, you know, there was some useful information in here that you can action straight away. But leveraging referrals can be used in a traditional sales sense or traditional marketing sense. You know, if you're at networking meetings, make sure you're talking to people about similar clients you've done work for and, you know, talking about the good experience they've had. You know, if you're on a webinar, make sure you show your 5-star reviews all across that webinar, as I've done here. And this process works. You know, we've got proof from a number of clients that this is really working for them at the moment, and it's just something to sit alongside your normal sales process. So we've used a bit of a testimonial here. So Tom Cheddar McCandio, that I'm sure most of you know, he went from a lead gen approach via cold calling, which he'd typically create 2 appointments for 80 calls. He's now sending around 30 messages out and getting 2 appointments for those 30 messages. So I kind of want to challenge all of you guys to give this a go. You know, you don't have to spend hours on this, and we're not saying scrap your normal sales approach, because it obviously works, but just have this running alongside. So kind of a 20-minute daily challenge we want to set to see who can generate the first lead using this method. First person to generate a lead over this message method, just drop us a message in and we'll send something nice to you out in the mail. A lot of people use the 9 before 9 technique. So if you are commuting, if you're using public transport, try and create 9 interactions before 9 a.m. just on that kind of dead time in your journey. That could be researching your customers' connections and sending that initial email, or doing some of those follow-up messages if you've already got in contact with them.